Tonight on NAIT NewsWatch.
How social media is changing the landscape of traditional broadcast news.
Journalism is like gravity or oxygen, or journalism is an essential part of humanity.
Are stories filmed entirely from cell phones the future of news?
It's really not the device that you're using. Once you learn how to focus, the lighting, the sound, it's the reason why.
And we talk to industry professionals to see how they think the industry will change in the next 10 years.
I think there are still going to be, lots of jobs for journalists. It's just how it's going to be delivered, I think, is different.
NewsWatch starts now.
Good evening, and welcome to this week's special edition of NAIT NewsWatch. Tonight, instead of bringing you what you need or want to know from your campus, city, and country, we're taking a deep dive into an industry that is evolving right before our very eyes.
Literally. You're looking at the future of that right now. Television, news media, and broadcasting. From downsizing to looking at new ways of sharing information, the media is going through a revolution. Whether you think we're all fake news and biased, or if you come to the media to be genuinely informed and entertained, this week we investigate the changes in the media industry that mean a different news landscape for you as viewers and for us as young broadcasters.
And when empires fall, a new one begins in its place.
Broadcast journalism might never return to its golden era at the end of the last century, but journalism is still here to stay, just with a digital skin. Our reporters Alyssa Conti and Tristan Johnson have more on this story.
Once temperatures start to drop and melting stops, it'll all be back to normal, at least for another few weeks anyway.
From the advent of print journalism to news radio in 1932,
special bulletin from the Press Radio News, Trenton, New Jersey,
to the early beginnings of broadcast television in the 1950s,
and I've got to use this sort of microphone because there's a lot of noise up here, mainly caused by the wind.
Canadian journalists have been upheld as a trusted daily source of information by the public. As the digital age became a bigger part of daily life, people started getting their news from other sources. According to the Reuters Institute, most Canadians now receive their news online.
The news world is changing so much, even like as we speak. And it's changing in ways that we don't even understand.
Since graduating from NAIT's radio and television program in 2021, Stephanie Swensrud has gone on to work for both TV and radio newsrooms. Now, she's a curator and reporter just for online news.
I don't think that the TV news world is going to go away tomorrow, but I think that it's on the path to winding down, and I want it to be part of like the next form of news. So that's why I moved into more of an online-only thing.
In her old job, Swensrud had to write breaking, hard-hitting news.
I would have been writing like 3 to 4 breaking news stories like police, fire, political stories every day. Now I'm working on like about 2 stories a week where I get to dig more deep down into things.
Although people say that journalism is a dying profession, Swensrud believes that it's just changing.
If you think of caveman drawings, town criers, or even maids while churning butter, people have always been driven by the power to connect. There's nothing more human than the desire to spread news.
By late December of this year, the federal government will be deciding on the future of online news in Canada. Bill C-18, or the Online News Act, is a response to changing audience platforms and declining trust in mainstream media. Trust in traditional news media is now at 40%, but people still need to get their news somewhere.
If we want people to continue to care about news and to continue to get reliable information, you need to adapt and you need to evolve and you need to try new things.
After serving as NAIT's campus paper for the last 60 years, the Nugget is now shifting to a more digital approach, and other student papers are doing the same.
There's a lot of people who aren't even printing anymore just because we've all heard it, print is dead or whatever people say, but I know there's people who focus more just on their websites, more on podcasts, more on social media journalism or digital journalism.
Meta has blocked the Nugget and other student papers due to Bill C-18, so the Nugget pivoted their social media strategy to TikTok. However, pages such as Yegwave or Daily Hive are able to continue sharing content.
People are turning towards things like that for news when you're not really getting news, you're getting reposted videos from TikTok and Reddit.
The thing about journalism to me is that people always say journalism is dying, and I don't think that's true. Journalism is like gravity or oxygen. Journalism is an essential part of humanity, and it's always existed.
No one can really be sure where Canadian journalism is headed, but Stephanie in Swensrud doesn't think it's headed to the graveyard.
You're watching NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation of news.
From Instagram to Twitter and from YouTube to TikTok, people are now able to capture and share news with just the power of their smartphones.
And with this new age of digital media, will this change the landscape of journalism? Our reporter Leo Cruzat will discuss the issue with Eric Beck and give us his insights about the growing trend of mobile journalism.
Hey guys, I am here with Eric Beck, who is the video journalist in Global News Edmonton for 17 years, and we are here to discuss the future and give us some insights about the mobile journalism. How are you, Eric?
Very well, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and let's go straight to the question. You've been here for 17 years in the industry, and I'm wondering, what is the biggest change you think in the landscape of video journalism?
Video journalism has really changed quite a bit over the last couple of decades for sure. When I first started, I started shooting with tape. Now it's all SD card, nice and light, and from SD to HD to 4K, 8K. All this different technology changes in a very short period of time, right? So that's one big thing, but I think it's just also how we deliver content as well. Everything's online, digital first now, and it's just how people consume their news, and everything else has changed quite a bit.
And mobile journalism is getting big in the industry. And do you think, as a videographer, do you think that's job getting easier for you or getting more complicated?
I mean, it can get complicated in a couple different ways, but for me, I use an ENG camera, a traditional type of news gathering equipment, but I use my cell phone as a layer, as a tool for my job anyway. When it comes to someone that is a mobile journalist specifically, their content is going to be a lot different, and their stories are going to be a lot different than what I do or the stories that I gather. But I mean, a cell phone is a tool. At the end of the day, it's a layer to add, a different view to the story that you may not get otherwise.
And it said it's different. Different can be scary. Real quickly, do you think that does it scare you, the change of landscape in terms of news gathering journalism?
I mean, change can be scary, but I think you need to be able to embrace change. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in, whether it's news or really anything else. Change has always been on the landscape. Technology is always advancing. There's automation that is taken over from some jobs in some different areas, but at the same time it's added jobs in other places, right? I think it's important to really embrace that change so that we can really just reach all the people that are wanting to take in their news and take in their content.
Absolutely. So. And talking about technology and jobs is that we are now changing more digital age, and with better and better technology, there's a cutbacks that's been happening in the industry. And my question is that, do you think that this is going to result for fewer journalism? Journalists?
I mean, there's been cutbacks since the industry started way back when, right? So you take two away, you add two. So it's not negating the people that have lost their jobs, but there's always change, but the technology is always changing. Embrace the AI, but also make sure that you keep it within wraps.
Absolutely, and the whole industry has been changing throughout the years, and we can't read the future. So I guess we're going to thank you for the insight, and all we need to do is probably grow and adapt with this change.
Yep.
So
embrace the change.
So much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for giving us the insight.
Thank you.
I'm Leo Cruzat for NewsWatch Special Report.
Coming up after the break, the industry is constantly changing, and a reflection of these changes is the rise of mobile journalism. What does shooting from smartphones do to help or perhaps hinder journalists?
And the downsides of evolution as TV news moves forward. Does it come at the expense of jobs? We will have an in-depth interview with a media professional when we come back.
You're watching NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation of news.
As technology continues to evolve, so does the way we capture news on a daily basis.
Our team explores the world of mobile journalism and how it has changed the way we present the news that you see.
Smartphones like these are continuously being used by reporters around the world, and the answer can seem very clear. It's cheaper, more accessible, and more compact than larger cameras. I'm going to take you in the world of mobile journalism today and tell you how NAIT is implementing it in their radio and television program. So we got these fantastic smartphone kits here. You manage a story here at NAIT for the radio and television students. Can you just tell us a brief overview about these smartphone kits and how viable these are to the students here?
They're a lot less expensive than the large cameras, and they're a lot easier for students to carry around when you're on a quick shoot. So these kits, if the students want to get them, like we got 10 here in stores, and they do go out quite often. These kits cost anywhere between $220 to $250, so they're quite reasonable for students to get if you're just starting out. And they're also like nice to have in your car if you have to shoot something quick. It's easy to get.
I really like what this is set up with. It's got a light here that you can turn on and adjust even the coloring with. It's got a microphone for any background noise going on, and if you need any personal noise, it's got its own lav mic you can hook up. These DJI mics, these are very cool.
These DJI mics are very, very popular. We have 3 of them in stores now. We're hoping to get more of them in. The DJI mics are very compact. They're easy to use. They do really great quality. Yeah, they're very popular with the students, and they run about, I would say, $350. When they're going out to the field or when they're doing streeters, like they say, it's a lot easier to get these. And also, a lot of times when you're interviewing people, they don't feel as intimidated instead of having a big giant camera in front of their face. So they tend to talk to you more if they see these little ones instead.
Evelyn, I really appreciate your time. You do such a great job here handling the equipment, and do a great job teaching the students more about this equipment. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm here, Patrick Galenza, chair of the NAIT Radio and Television program. And my first question for you is, when did you start noticing the rise of the popularity of mobile journalism?
I think part of it is, as iPhones came into play and then the cameras got better and a number of different things had changed. But you've heard about it. I read a lot of trade magazines of what's going on and what's happening in the States and what's happening out east and some of the different things. So we've heard about it, but it really wasn't put in play in our industry or locally. So, being aware of it was kind of how we started with it.
What have been the benefits of the students using a smaller device compared to the big cameras?
Mobile journalism, it's not only using the techniques of the cameras, but it's the thinking about it and how you would shoot it and what you would do and how you do the interviews. So it allows our students, so once again, we haven't changed. We still use DSLRs, and we use a medium format camera, and we use another camera. Then we add mobile journalism. It gives our students an opportunity to get their hands on 4 different types of shooting events that they could have, which gives them even a better opportunity in industry.
Well, those were all the questions we had for today, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Like they were saying earlier, with the phones now, we have a lot more creative opportunity and freedom with what angles and shots we need to take. Are we going to see more like these in the future? Well, that's for us to find out. I'm Tristan Mathers for NAIT NewsWatch.
Our next guest, Chris Duncan, spent over 20 years in the television news industry with City TV. But when his company downsized, he was out of a job. Now he's working at Production World as the Director of Studio Services.
Our Ben Lowen sat down with him to discuss his opinions about our future in the industry.
So I'm here with Chris Duncan. You were a longtime news director with City TV, and now you're with Production World. So my first question for you is, what was your life like growing up, and when did you really realize that you fell in love with television?
Well, that's a great question, Ben. I grew up in a small town in Ontario, and my father was the newspaper editor of the weekly newspaper. And then when I was in high school, I started writing a column for his newspaper. From there, I decided, well, I really love this. You know, the rest is kind of history from there.
And then how have you seen the news industry evolve during your time being a news director?
I was fortunate because there was growth in the industry when I was involved in it. And we actually got to do some really good journalism at the TV stations I was working at. So it was growth, and then it was followed by the internet, cable expansion, social media, and then that led to advertisers, you know, having more choices and going away from newspapers, television, radio, and then that led to cutbacks, and then you have what you have today, which is not the greatest journalism, serving local communities like it once did.
And then from your eyes as a former news director, how is the industry just changing?
What's happening now, of course, is everybody's going online, getting their news from their phone, and you know, those are not reliable sources. It's just led to poorer journalism, or not even journalism, and misinformation is out there, and so you don't have the reliable sources that we once did.
And now, with everything changing in multiple industries just around the city, what do you hope to see in the next couple years with the television industry or the production industry?
It would be nice to see growth on all levels, but I don't know that that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of challenges in a major market city such as Edmonton, and you can only do so much. But I guess the one thing I'll say from a municipal standpoint, I wish that we had journalists that held our city council and all of our politicians more accountable, for what they do, and maybe dug a little deeper into what's going on so we can get those important stories out there.
My final question for you is, what do you want people to know about the evolution of television and production?
Well, I think most people realize what's been going on with television, specifically local television, that it's regressed. It's not what it once was. I think production, it's the future is very exciting. So on the technology side, I would say that, there are some good things. Social media, not so much. But I guess we'll see.
And I just want to say, Chris, thank you for giving us your time to really just tell everything you know about the industry and where it's heading.
My pleasure, Ben. Thank you.
Coming up after the break, we take a look how artificial intelligence, such as ChatGPT, is affecting the news, whether that may be for good or for bad.
And we talk to industry professionals about how they see people getting their news 10 years from now.
NAIT 2023 team jackets are brought to you by Refined RX Medical Aesthetics and Invincible Team Financial Group.
The way we consume news is changing dramatically as artificial intelligence develops at a rate we've never seen before.
Now the question that remains, is ChatGPT and virtual news readers going to rule the airwaves in the future, in an era where technology is still reshaping our world? Arawet Magok has more on that.
Hello, everyone. I'm an English artificial intelligence.
Of news broadcasts are being replaced by simulated newsreaders. With the help of cutting-edge AI technology, simulated newsreaders provide news broadcasts a new perspective. These anchors guarantee that news is available around the clock by having the capacity to deliver news with uncompromising consistency.
We used to do stuff in larger markets that would trickle down into the smaller ones. They might feel a little bit ostracized in a sense of not having that full day schedule they used to have.
Artificial intelligence has become the main attraction in this digital age. ChatGPT, virtual newsreaders, and the integration of Google and Snapchat AI are all changing the way that we acquire information. ChatGPT efficiently produces and distributes clear and mostly reliable news, giving users quick access to the data that they need.
In radio, it is hard to use AI to be a personality. AI just doesn't have the emotion or the perspective that a real human has. So as a talent, as a host, I don't think it's going to go very far. I don't even see them using it at all.
AI algorithms are increasingly helping journalists and editors in newsrooms all over the world. They have the ability to analyze enormous volumes of data, spot trends, and even produce news articles. But as AI's influence in journalism grows, so do the worries.
I think it's a really good thing. For me, it's been a valuable tool, and from what I've seen, everyone sees it as a valuable tool. Whether it's with art or if it's with writing or anything audio related, it can be really useful. Evolving forward, I don't think that this will have like a massive impact in the industry as far as jobs go.
The development of the media industry calls for continuous innovation and deep integration with the international advanced technologies. I will work tirelessly to keep you informed as texts will be typed into my system, uninterrupted.
So with doing writing, sometimes depending on the client, like if it's like a low level, like just mom and pop shop, say it's in St. Paul or something. If you wanted and they give you enough detail, you can just use ChatGPT straight up to write yourself a base script, and then you go in and you fix the details of it and you'll send that over to the client. See if they like it. If they do, carry on with it, send it over to production. If they don't, then, take a step back and reiterate what you were doing with the AI.
It's clear that ChatGPT and automated news are taking over airwaves. They're providing us with a way to consume news that's more tailored, relevant, and immediate than anything else. Our information consumption habits are changing quickly, and these new developments are providing us with new ways to stay informed and engaged. For NAIT NewsWatch, I'm Awet Magok.
As television students, we were always taught to use a big broadcasting camera to record all our footage. But with mobile journalism on the rise, soon there will be no need for one.
Because of this, our education is changing, and instructors will have to start teaching these new ways to students. Our Wu Heuser joins us with NAIT instructor Chris Durham to ask him how this industry change will affect our curriculum.
Thanks, guys. We're here with NAIT radio and television instructor, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Durham. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
You're too kind, and I don't know if I'm crazy about the myth.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, Wu.
It's our pleasure. So before teaching here at NAIT, you worked as a reporter at Global News for 9 years, and you went from being a player to a coach in the industry. So how has it changed since you've started?
Oh, where do I start? So many changes in our industry over the years. In what I teach, which is presentation and news writing, the changes are subtle compared to technology, which can have some huge canyon-sized changes in its evolution. But probably the one thing that initially changed was the advent of more live television. We went from having stories that were pre-produced and everything was in the can and stories would be running on air. People by then were already sitting on their couch watching them at home. But now, or at that point I should say, in the early 2000s, with the advent of live, the immediacy of news, things that are happening in the moment, and that unpredictability of what could happen. If a reporter screws up, or if something happens behind you, which we've seen on YouTube, multiple YouTube videos out there, that was always the risk and the danger, but it brought that immediacy. And I think it was at the forefront of what we're seeing now, was that desire to have live television, perhaps even sometimes, if it may not have been worthy of coverage if it wasn't live. So just that aspect of being live was a key part of that revolution that was going on. So I think that was probably one of the biggest changes early on.
Okay, awesome. And speaking of immediacy, let's talk about social media. With social media being as popular as it is, people are more comfortable being on camera. With that in mind, will mobile journalism change the way reporters deliver news?
Oh, I think it already is. Absolutely. It's interesting. There was a time when it was absolutely forbidden to use someone's home video. From those old cameras when we first had our phones out and they looked like communicators from Star Trek, and you'd be taking some video with it. We actually called it, back at ITV, which is the former incarnation of Global, they were called hotshots. So if somebody sent in some video, some home video, they might get a hat. But we knew that going on, that it was inferior. I mean, it was something that we clearly stated this was home video, not professional. Because we didn't want an audience to think, how dare we go out and shoot something with a phone? Well, man, how times have changed. So we're seeing this now as being commonplace. We're teaching it here at NAIT. I think most broadcast schools and universities are embracing it. There are dangers with it, as we say with the when we have something that is immediate. The old adage of verify, verify, verify is sometimes jeopardized when we are trying to present something to an audience immediately without verifying what in fact you are seeing and what we're telling you is actually the truth. But in this world, in this appetite of now, it does serve that purpose. So yes, it is here to stay. Similar to what I said initially about lives, what it did, this is taking it a step further. So with the industry evolving, and I think at one point saying, we would not give in to these things, and they are, who knows what is ahead in the future and what would be acceptable. I hope that journalism standards will still apply even as it evolves.
Absolutely. Alrighty, and one last question we have for you here. As an instructor, how will this new form of journalism change the curriculum for students?
Well, I think it already has, and we are looking at more immediacy. We have a Mojo mobile journalism course that is already in place. So but I think what students are coming into this business for is changing as well too. It's not just I want to work in a newsroom, I want to be a news anchor, a sports anchor. Yes, we still do have those people, but we also understand that they're coming in with some already added skills by posting to YouTube, by just using their phones and Snapchat, et cetera, that many of them are looking to come in as content creators. And so I think having that open mind is a good foundation for however this industry goes in whatever shape it takes.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have for you today, folks. Thank you again for joining us, Chris. And with NAIT's special edition, I'm Wu Heuser.
With the industry constantly changing and evolving to keep up with current technology, as we've learned so far, many people wonder what the future of TV news may look like.
We ran around and asked industry professionals what they think TV news will look like 10 years from now.
Well, I definitely think everything is going to be more focused online, so I don't think broadcast news is necessarily going anywhere, but I do think it'll be more likely to be available to stream, hopefully from some of the larger streaming platforms, and then obviously on social media as well.
Maybe we're not even using phones, right? Maybe it's just automatically uploaded to your brain somehow, or you put glasses on and it's just on the inside of the glasses, but almost for sure it'll be digitally. I think there are still going to be, lots of jobs for journalists. It's just how it's going to be delivered, I think, is different.
I feel like the way people would be consuming news is still maybe watching newscasts, but just purely online and not on a television.
I wouldn't be surprised if we just simply don't have meaningful news in 10 years. People choose the news that they want, which is actually perhaps more yeg-wavy entertainment rather than news.
I think that the days of a Tom Brokaw or Peter Mansbridge being the voice of authority on news are probably over, and people are going to find voices and faces that resonate with them and go to those.
I would say more digitally, like through your phones, iPads, laptops, because I feel like nowadays, especially now, like everybody is getting information like quick and fast most of the times through their phones.
I think online news has been really important for a while and should continue to grow in the next 10 years it's been really interesting to see a shift from like a focus on social media apps and websites and how that progresses will be really interesting to see, because we've already seen with like Twitter not being as prominent as it used to be and Meta blocking news. It's just always progressing. Predicting is really difficult, but I think it'll continue to grow one way or another.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of NAIT NewsWatch. And a big thanks to our guests who joined us in studio for this reflective and future-focused look at the industry we're being trained for. The industry of telling you what's going on in our world.
Or in our city, and even right here on campus. News coverage in a broadcast setting has been around for decades, and it's evolved. What shape it will take in the future? Hopefully we've given you some crystal ball insight.
One thing is for sure, from stone carvings in prehistoric times to a town crier, people want to know about other people and how their communities are shaped. The future has a lot of possibilities.
One of which we know will arrive next week. Our regular show will return next Friday. Be sure to join us as we delve into issues and events that matter to you. Good night.